Sparks Theatre Show, where we are joined this afternoon by two of the wonderful members of Jarrow Musical Theatre Company. We're joined by Fran and Erin. Welcome both of you.
Hello.
And we are here this afternoon to talk all about their upcoming production, which is, I believe, the Northeast premiere of the show Bonnie and Clyde. How exciting is that for you guys?
Like, mind-blowing. It's, I can't put it into words.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but I am beside myself with excitement.
Yeah. I can't get over the fact that it's still running on the West End.
Yeah.
And we literally went down a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah,
now
like
to
3
go see
weeks
it.
ago.
And they I think just finished their run as we open or something like that. But to me, that's insane that we've managed to get the rights to be able to do this when they're still, performing on the West End. It's just mental.
It's like unheard of.
Yeah. I mean, when we went to see it, I was just blown away. We hadn't seen it because we hadn't had the chance to get down there. Our director, Michelle, had gone to see another amateur production. Where was that? Huddersfield. And she was blown away by it, and she said, we absolutely need to we made the right choice with choosing the show. It's amazing.
Quite a few of the cast and crew went down to see that one. Erin and I couldn't go because we were working, but the general consensus was phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
Like I say, I didn't see it, but from what I've heard, the group themselves were amazing. But then watching the show itself, it was just like, I can't believe we've got the opportunity to do this.
I mean, me and Fran did Lady and the Tramp a single tissue between us at that performance, because stupidly we didn't bring any in with us, even though we knew probably what was going to happen.
We had one tissue.
We had one large napkin between us. And we Lady in the Tramp tissue had one end and I had the other, as we sobbed our little hearts out into this tissue.
The whole time?
Yeah, covered both of them.
Yeah. When I see a piece of theatre, I want to come out having felt every single emotion possible. I want to come out feeling like a wrung out rag, and I absolutely did with that show. It's sad, it's happy, it warms your heart, it leaves you confused.
You're conflicted. You're very
so
conflicted.
It's, for me, it's got all of the emotions that I want to feel in a production, which is so exciting.
Mm-hmm.
So exciting.
Yeah, it gives you a good range as well.
Very.
As actors, to be able to put on this, production and go through all of that in yourself and as those people.
Yeah.
Because those people existed, which is insane to me. I find it really fascinating.
And it adds a whole new
History.
layer of difficulty to it as well, doesn't it? Because you want to do right by them. And, they're not people that we've ever met. So you've just got to sort of do your own research and sort of still put your own spin on it. But you want it to be authentically them as well. I mean, we've been doing this for a long time. And I think this is one of the hardest parts I've ever done for that reason. There's a lot of playing around going on in rehearsals, and whenever we run a scene, it's never the same twice, is it? Because you're still trying to sort of tweak things and be like, do I feel that's right for Bonnie? Do I feel that's right for Blanche?
But you just don't know.
No.
I've got nothing apart from we know there's famous photographs, there's famous headlines. It's all in, it was all in newspapers at the time. They wrote poetry. Well, Bonnie wrote poetry and sent it into the papers and sent photos, and it was printed. So we've got that physical evidence side.
Yeah.
But as for what's going on behind the photograph or behind the poetry, that's
quite a lot of it's guesswork, because obviously they were in hiding pretty much the whole time.
Yeah.
So even a lot of the stuff that was going on in the tabloids was speculation about where they were and what they were doing. I think one of the biggest helps for me, I mean, playing Blanche, spoilers, but she was the only one of the Barrow gang that actually got out of there alive. She wrote an autobiography, which I've been reading, and I mean, you could never put everything from those few years of their lives into 1 2-hour show. It would be impossible. But reading that book, things go so much deeper than I had ever realised. She had a horrendous life before she met and married Buck, and she thought this was it. She thought that her life was going to be great now. She'd met the man that she knew she was going to spend the rest of her life with, and then they got into all this trouble. And ultimately she lost him in a really horrendous way. And I think having read that and now knowing all of the backstory behind it, it makes my heart break for it even more than it did just reading the show, seeing the show, performing the show.
Yeah, it gives you that root and point, doesn't it?
Oh yeah,
to go from, and you're like, right, this explains a lot of what's
it
going on.
explains so much.
Yeah,
bless her. I know.
bless her heart.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to talk in a little bit about the show itself and, you know, all the storyline and everything for people who've somehow managed to miss it. But first of all, I think it is time that we reach into Spark's Stagey selection box.
Yes.
So for those of you that don't know, that is where we ask anyone who comes on the show to pick usually 3 songs. So we're going to get 1 pick each for both of you, and then 1 song that represents the show as a whole. And I want to know which song, either from the musical itself or from any musical, as long as it's a musical, which song represents your characters. So I'm going to go for you, Erin, first. What song represents Bonnie for you?
Oh, it's got to be Dying Ain't So Bad. You know, she got into this with Clyde because she fell madly, deeply and ferociously in love with him, but she always wanted to be a star. And the fame and the hunger for that fame and wanting to be, you know, noticed and wanting to be like these big actresses at the time pushed her into this world of crime with Clyde. But she ended up really, really, obviously madly, deeply in love with him, blindsided by it all, sort of forgave him for a lot of his trespasses and was willing to do anything and everything for him, to the point of, like, obviously extremities.
Yeah.
So Dying Ain't So Bad encompasses all of that, and how she's literally willing to go with him to the ends of the earth, wherever that may be.
Yeah.
And that sort of summarises her as a whole throughout the show as well.
Definitely.
Here it is for you then. Your first pick from Spark's Stagey selection box. It's Laura Osnes with Dying Ain't So Bad from Bonnie and Clyde.
Dying ain't so bad, not if you both go together. Only when one's left behind does it get sad. But a short and loving life, that ain't so bad. I only hope to God that I go first. I couldn't live
Crying Ain't So Bad, Laura Osnes here for you on the Sparks Theatre Show, where we are joined this afternoon by two of the members of Jarrow Musical Theatre Company talking all about their upcoming show of Bonnie and Clyde. And we're joined by Bonnie herself, Erin, and Blanche, who is played by Fran. And so we've talked a little bit in the last, 7 minutes or so we've been talking, and a nice little song about your characters, about how it is to do this show. And you guys are clearly absolutely besotted with the show, right?
Don't get me wrong, it's exhausting.
Yeah.
But in the best possible way. The high, even just, finishing a full run at a rehearsal, the high that we get from doing that full run is second to none.
It really brings it out, and I think we as a company are so tight-knit and we're so comfortable with each other. It's lovely. We only want to see each other succeed, and it's really nice to have that support system there when you're doing this hard nitty-gritty stuff, so that like when you walk off stage and you come off from doing a scene, you've got that support system there.
There's always someone stood there with a tissue. I mean,
arms out for a hug.
The first time we ran Buck's death scene, because spoiler, he doesn't make it either, I was a mess. I don't think I've ever cried like that in my life. And it's really weird because it's not really happening. I'm sat on stage with Joe laid across my lap, who is one of my very good friends. So that in itself is quite sad. But I know there's going to be a blackout and he's going to get up, walk off stage. But I think in a room of different people, I would have been absolutely mortified to have come off stage in the state that I was in. And I think because we've got such a tight-knit group, it sort of gives you permission to really just put everything you have into the scenes without the fear of judgment or people laughing at you. We're all on the same page and we all understand. And to be fair, when we're up there completely bearing our hearts, the rest of the cast are sat watching and they're all in floods of tears as well. So I do think that helps, because this is not a show that you can do by halves. You have to give it everything, because of the story, but I think as well because once you get to know these characters, you want to do right by them.
You can't help but root for them, even though you know that they were criminals.
They did some horrible things.
Yeah, you can't help but root for them.
But you get so attached.
Yeah, and we get attached to each other. With obviously our cast and stuff. We have a wonderful director, Michelle Coulson. Absolutely fantastic. And I think what's really important as well that you've touched on is that Michelle just lets us run with it. Obviously we've got the script, we've got the she gives us directions and whatever, but she's happy to let us just roll with it, and that's really nice. It's really nice having, and she just lets us use our dynamic and being so close as to really put together and do these people justice, and hopefully put on an amazing show, which everybody's fantastic, everybody's absolutely amazing, such a talented group of people.
And I think the fact that we are so close in situations like this turns out to be our biggest strength, because it's so much easier to play those relationships with people when you have them off stage as well. I think sometimes friendship and chemistry can be really hard to fake, but we don't have to do that. I think the hardest part for us is, we are closer than close in real life, and Bonnie and Blanche really do not see eye to eye. Blanche doesn't understand why Bonnie's there.
What's really funny is Sharon, Fran's mum, she mentioned the other night, we came off stage and she's like, you know what, if people didn't know that you two were as close as you were and friends, anybody would think you absolutely hate each other. You hate the bones of each other. And I was like, great, we're doing our job.
We're doing it all right then. Because I don't think Bonnie ever really sort of warms to Blanche, because Blanche is just trying to sort of...
She's trying to keep them apart.
She's trying to pull the whole scheme out of the water. She's trying to save her husband. That is the one and only thing that matters to her at that point. She doesn't want him to end up back in prison. She doesn't want him to get himself killed, which she knows is a very real possibility at this point. And she wants him to be sort of saved and free in the eyes of God. She wants him to be a good man. So she's really trying to save him. I think by this point, Bonnie is just, I'll get my fame however I get it. Yeah, would I have liked to be in films? Would I have liked to be a singer? Yeah, but you know what? I'm in the papers now, so I've sort of already made it. This is just what it's going to be. I think by the end of it, I think Blanche genuinely feels really sorry for Bonnie, because I think she sees that throughout all of this, Bonnie's ended up in the same position that Blanche is in, where she is with a man and she will do anything for him, and if that means that she dies, that means that she dies. And ultimately it comes down to the really strong bond they have with their other halves.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the saddest things for me. You see Blanche melt a little bit and sort of warm towards Bonnie, and then that's it. There's no chance for that relationship to ever come to any fruition, because it all just goes mad.
But I think that's, if you were to sum up the whole show, that's what ties it all together, is the love that they feel for their other halves, and how they feel about, family. It was the love of their family that actually
got them caught in the end.
They realised they were coming back for big family occasions, anniversaries, Easter, birthdays, and that's how they got them in the end.
They knew to expect them,
but to encompass the whole show,
them.
That is what it's all about. Love, either that's like relationship or obviously family. It was about how strong they felt for the people around them. Yeah. And that was their downfall in the end, which is really, really sad as well.
Yeah.
But
so for everyone who now really badly, like me, wants to come and see this emotional roller coaster of a show, where can people get tickets and when is the show on?
So we open on the 10th. Is it the 10th? Wednesday the 10th. Not long left at all. So we're performing at Jarrow Focus, which is a gorgeous theatre, which unfortunately people don't really know that it's there.
No, it's just beside the Morrisons. It's just in Jarrow Centre, but it's easily accessible. We have a lift for those that need it. We've got a lovely space just outside. We've got a coffee bar. We've got the tiered seating as well as floor seating.
Yeah.
So it means that if needs be, anybody can get to Jarrow and come and see the show if they should want it to.
We're also one of the only theatres in the area that still has an orchestra pit.
Yes.
Which we fought really hard for when the theatre was being refurbed. It was like, you cannot take our orchestra pit. You will take our lives before you take our orchestra pit. And it means we're very lucky that we get to do all of our shows with a live band, which I think is so important. Tracks are brilliant, but I think there's nothing quite like live music. So anyway, I digress. We are at Jarrow Focus, which is on Cambrian Street in Jarrow, from Wednesday the 10th of May until Friday the 12th at 7 o'clock. And then Saturday the 13th is a 1 p.m. matinee. Tickets are £12, which is
steal.
An absolute steal, especially... I dread to think how much we spend going down to see it in London. The climate we're living in at the minute, not everybody can afford to do that. However, you can see, in my humble opinion, just as good of a portrayal of this amazing show for £12 in Jarrow Focus. It's not far to travel. It's a very reasonably priced night out, in my opinion. So tickets are available at www.ticketsource.co.uk/Jarrow Musical Theatre Company. They are all available on there. Or you can phone our box office after 5 p.m. and the number for that is 07929 321 871. Just a quick little note as well is the show's not really suitable for children. It's quite raunchy in places, and obviously there's a massive theme of violence throughout the show, so under 12s unfortunately won't be admitted to the performance, which is the same for any showing of the show. But I think for anybody who loves theatre, anybody who's a little bit of a history buff, I think it's a must see. I really do.
Especially as it's not, it's currently playing. For anybody who wants to maybe see something new, the score itself is absolutely beautiful, stunning. I think it's going to become one of those sort of fan favourites, and it's already pulling together a lot of.
It's got a massive fan
following,
base.
Yeah, massive following, a massive fan base. So I think being able to see it locally for a fraction of the price as well, it's going to pull people in. But for those who maybe want to experience something new, want to see a new piece of theatre, it's a big pull. It's a big one,
definitely.
But yeah, we can't wait to put this on. We are so excited.
I'm so conflicted because at the same time I'm like, I want to get an audience in, I want to get the lights on, I want to get the costumes on and get the band in, and I want to go for it. But then, you know, we've only got 4 days, so I'm sort of...
We don't want to rush it over.
I'm not ready to let go of this show. We haven't even started the run yet, and I am already mourning.
So I think it is time to jump back into Spark's stagey selection box, and it is time to choose another song from another musical that represents another character. So Fran, which song from musical theatre for you represents Blanche?
I think there are 2 ways that you could go with this with Blanche. You either look at her feelings for Buck or her feelings for God and her faith. I do think ultimately Blanche makes a little bit of a choice, and she does choose Buck. So for that reason, I think I'm going to do the same, and I'm gonna go down the route of, you know, how deeply she loves this man. And I think for me, it's got to be another song from the show, and it's got to be the duet that Blanche and Bonnie sing, You Love Who You Love. It's perfect for explaining just how they both feel about the men in their lives. They would both do anything for them, and I think that song sums it up perfectly.
Well, here it is just for you, Spark's stagey selection box. You Love Who You Love from Laura Osnes and Melissa van der Schilf.
I know my heart don't care what people say. All I know is that I never felt like this. And besides, I wouldn't change him if I could. No man's all good. I always knew what I was taking on, but I always felt that I could change his ways. Even if my man will never fall in line, I'm glad he's mine. 'Cause you love who you love, and you can't help how you're made. You don't have no say, your heart decides. It's that simple, I'm afraid. Yes, you love who you love. Common sense may say it's wrong. There's a part of him you know is wild. Maybe that's what made you love him all along. I only care that he's mine and I am his. There ain't no rules, that's how it is. Most girls would hate to be standing in my shoes, but true love's something you don't choose. For you love who you love, and you go with what you feel, and you never think what's down the road while the fairy tale seems real. You love who you love. Common sense may say it's wrong. There's a part of him you know is wild. Maybe that's what made you love him all along. Could be that's what made you love him all along.
You Love Who You Love from Laura Osnes and Melissa van der Schilf, here for you on Sparks Theatre Show, where we are joined this afternoon by 2 of the members of Jarrow Musical Theatre Company, talking all about their upcoming show of Bonnie and Clyde. But what we haven't done yet is actually told anyone who's missed it for some reason what Bonnie and Clyde is. What are people going to actually be coming to see?
So it actually encompasses quite a small window of time in the lives of Bonnie and Clyde. We start at the end so that everybody sort of knows what they're getting into.
Yeah, spoiler alert at the very beginning.
Yeah.
So. But for all those who don't know the history of Bonnie and Clyde anyway, probably already know that they didn't really end very well for them.
No, it wasn't the fairy tale that they thought they were going to get, was it?
No.
So you see ultimately what happens to them, their demise, which is so harrowing. It's
horrific.
awful.
Yeah.
And then we go back, you see Bonnie and Clyde meet for the first time, and what that looks
You
like.
see them as children before that, yeah.
Oh, yes,
You get little
yeah.
snippets. So it tries to bring the audience up to speed. You see little snippets of their life leading up to the meeting, and then it goes from the meeting, and then it sort of skips, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Into like pivotal moments of their life, right leading up to obviously when they were killed.
So, you know,
Spoiler alert.
you find out that Clyde's family grew up in extreme poverty. They lived in a tent under a bridge for years because they had nowhere else to go, which I think then gives massive insight into why he turned out the way that he did. All he wanted, I think initially for himself, but then by the end of it, I think he did want it for people in general. He just wanted everybody to have a fair shot. And obviously this takes place during the Great Depression, where people didn't have that, especially in Texas, where the majority of the show is set. Farming was, your biggest sort of career, if you like, and the banks started to buy all of the farms, and it got to the point where the banks owned everything. People
Nobody
had
could afford to buy
literally
anything.
nothing
Yeah.
left. So, that shows sort of where Clyde's ambition starts to stem from. You learn that literally all Bonnie wants is to be famous.
Yeah, from the get-go, that's her motive. She just wants to be a star, and she'll get it any way possible.
Yeah.
And she, I think a mother is really, really supportive of that. I think in a really strong way. She got like her glamour shots done, and you see all of that happening. And I think her mum just wanted what was best for her.
Which I think in a way is understandable, because if that's the life you were living, you wouldn't want that for your kids, would you?
No.
You'd want them to have everything in life that you hadn't had yourself.
At the same time, Emma knew that Clyde was trouble.
Oh, absolutely.
And there's pivotal moments in along the story where she sort of is the voice of reason, I would say. She comes in and tries to reason with Bonnie and make her see that this isn't going to end well. She could see it from the outset. And it's really heartbreaking. It's really sad.
It really is. Some of those scenes with Bonnie and her mum wrench your heart out of your chest and spit on it and stamp on it. Like, they are proper tear jerkers. And especially when we get Erin and Jill together as well, the two of them just start blaring their eyes out from the beginning of that scene. So then everybody else goes off with them. So
Well, Jill's fantastic.
she's amazing.
We worked with her last year when we did Young Frankenstein. She was our Farblucher. Fantastic lady. So it's lovely being able to work with the majority of the same team again.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
But there's just something about that dynamic. It's lovely.
Yeah.
It's lovely. I mean, it's hard, even playing Bonnie, being in it, you can totally see where Emma's coming from. You can see where
absolutely.
Emma's coming from. But she was so totally blindsided by, just being so madly in love with Clyde and wanting the money. Got used to the fame, got used to signing autographs when they were like holding people up, which is insane.
Yeah.
They were seen as modern day like Robin Hood.
They
hero.
were full-on celebrities.
Yeah.
And I think because of when it happened as well, obviously the Great Depression, they were robbing from the rich, and they got a lot of support from the general public for that, because nobody agreed with how the country was set up, and you had a very small percentage of people doing all right for themselves, and everybody else was in such extreme poverty that I think part of the reason they were so revered is because actually a lot of people agreed and just didn't have the guts to do what Bonnie and Clyde were doing.
They hadn't been pushed to that point yet.
No.
But I think when it comes to like sort of the end of the show, I think the law, and especially they just had enough with it. And we've got a great cast of obviously sheriffs and cops, and they sort of they sort of tie up the end of Bonnie and Clyde's tale. And they got sick and just said, like, we just need to get them. We don't have jurisdiction in other states, but we're gonna go.
We've got to do what we can.
Yeah, because they were just snowballing, weren't they? They were just getting away with so much, and because Clyde was such a good driver, he was just like going into other state lines, crossing the state lines.
You've got Blanche and Buck as well, who we haven't really touched on yet. So Buck is Clyde's brother, and he marries Blanche Barrow. At the time they get married, Blanche doesn't know that he has a criminal record and he's been in prison and he's, you know, he's escaped from prison and done all of these horrible things. She does say in her autobiography, when you read it, if she had known that, it wouldn't have changed the way that she felt about him. She, you know, she's very plain about the fact that, like, this is the man for me. Good times and bad. She's all about Buck. But I think she struggles with it the most of the four of the Barrow gang, because Blanche has a really strong connection to God and she's very passionate about her faith. Her father was a preacher, so, you know, she has that very, very strong religious connection. So, you know, she's being pulled in two different directions between what she knows is right and the love of her life. And, you know, she can't make that decision. I mean, I think it would be an impossible decision for anybody to make when you've got such a strong connection to your faith.
But there's three sort of big love triangle pulls, isn't there? So you've obviously got Buck and Blanche, Bonnie and Clyde, but then you have like Bonnie and Ted. But then you also have the parents and how it's just pulled from all ends. I mean, it is one of those that takes it to different places. There's some really light bits as well.
Yeah, really funny
amongst
in
the dark.
places.
It'll pull you from like polar ends to, you know, happiness to sadness to despair to, you know, elation. But as Fran said, being in one of these shows where you can display every sort of emotion possible, and for an audience member, you know, seeing the show, like, it's so good. As an audience member, that's what I want.
So it is now time for our final pick from Spark's Stagey selection box. But before we go there, I just want to give everyone a final reminder of where they can buy tickets and where they can see the show, because everyone needs to know about it.
They do. Jarrow Musical Theatre Company's Bonnie and Clyde is showing at Jarrow Focus, which is on Cambrian Street in Jarrow, from Wednesday the 10th to Friday the 12th of May. Those shows are at 7 p.m. We then have a 1 o'clock matinee on Saturday the 13th of May. You can get tickets from www.ticketsource.co.uk/Jarrow Musical Theatre Company, or you can phone our box office after 5 p.m, which is on 07929 321 871. Just a quick reminder, under 12s won't be admitted just because of the strong themes of violence. If you want to catch us on any of our social media and things like that, they're all at Jarrow Musical Theatre Company, and, you know, we're always pretty active on there, sharing reminders about tickets, links and things will be on there. We've had a couple
Meet
of
the Casts.
Yeah, we've got some Meet the Cast profiles going out at the minute. If you want to know a little bit more, if you haven't had enough of Erin and I and you want to know more about us,
Or see our faces. We've got promo pictures on there.
Yeah, and we have also had a couple of little sneaky tasters of what's been going on in rehearsals as well. So they're all really nice to look out for. But tickets are £12, and I can promise it will be the best £12 you've ever spent.
So it is time for that final pick from Spark's Stagey selection box, your final song from any musical of all time that represents for you guys Bonnie and Clyde as a musical. What are we going for?
Well, I don't know if you've realised, Kat, but we are obsessed with this show. So we've picked another from Bonnie and Clyde.
And I think it's one that it just sums up, it's timeless, this story now. It's embedded in American and now British history. This world will remember us totally encompasses this show. They have remembered them, and to this day people are still talking about them, and there's been a musical made about them. So it just goes to show they were right.
They wanted to be famous and they ended up being infamous.
They've got it. Infamous, yeah, precisely.
That's the one we want, please, Kat.
So here it is, your final choice from Spark's Stagey selection box. This world will remember us. Jeremy Jordan and Laura Osnes here for you on Spark's Theatre Show.
Well, who would have thought that a waitress from Rowena would have had the balls to bust me out with my old 45? And who would have thought that a farm boy from Toledo could outsmart the smartest lawmen and walk out of here alive? My name is gonna make the history books. Too bad I won't be here. I may have started out with small-time crooks, In a year or two, I'll be as known as Chicago's Al Capone.
Bye, baby.
See you soon, sugar. Thanks to you, Bonnie, babe, I can make plans again. I got lots of reasons to keep living. It's true that love can set you free, and this world will remember me.
You said you'd go straight, Clyde. I wanna be in movies. I can't name one movie star who's doing robberies on the side. I know in my heart, babe, that Hollywood is calling. How can I be in the spotlight if we always have to hide?
We'll need some dough to get to Hollywood. One or two jobs should do.
But after that, we will be done for good.
Babe, when Hollywood gets hold of you, they'll be saying, Clara, who? No need to rush, everybody gets our autographs. Hell of a ride will be the words on our epitaphs. Two living legends, that's what we will be.